A very good morning and welcome to this session on statistics for management. At the outset, I congratulate and compliment you for progressing from the second semester to the third semester and commencement of your classes with effect from today, that is 6th of July 2020. Your course on statistics for management PBA 303 will be handled by me, that is Dr. Neeraj Sharma, and as per the shared timetable, you are going to have the classes for this particular subject on Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays and Saturdays between 10 a.m. to 10:55 a.m. So altogether there will be 4 classes per week. The link to log on to Moodle, you are already well versed with the LMS Moodle platform, that is the Learning Management System platform. We will be using this particular platform for the sessions. You will find your course material as well as the audio-visual recorded presentations on this particular platform, and your attendance also is going to be monitored based on your login to this particular platform, LMS Moodle. So kindly ensure that you log in with your student ID regularly so that your attendance is on track. As you are well aware, minimum 75% attendance is mandated for appearing in the examinations by the university, so kindly ensure that you adhere or maintain that minimum attendance requisite. Now moving over to the course, so we'll talk about in this session something more in detail about your syllabus, how we are going to progress, and how the overall course is organized. So this is a core subject which is of 4 credits, full 4 credits, and it is been allocated 100 marks, and the time allocated to cover the entire syllabus is 40 hours. The main objective of this particular subject or course is to familiarize the students with various statistical data analysis tools that can be used for effective decision making from the perspective of managers. Now in this course we'll try to emphasize more on the application part of the concepts which will be taught or which will be delivered in the sessions, and based on that we are expecting that the candidates, the students, after completion of this course should be able to calculate and interpret various measures for the center as well as the spread of data set. So statistics, as we know, is basically about data, quantitative data, collection of data, analyzing of data. So you can also call it a collection of tools, techniques to collect, organize and analyze data, that is numbers. And in any business you need well researched, well informed inputs to take decisions. So those decisions which are critical to an organization, they are often based on facts and figures, so they're very important from the context of any business organization. So hence the importance of this subject, and we are going to learn accordingly. Now the second learning outcome of this course is to calculate that after the completion of the course the students should be able to calculate and interpret the measures which are used in statistics, like the correlation coefficient. You are able to establish a regression line and a time series equation. We'll learn more about all these in the corresponding sessions. But just to understand, there are some tools and techniques which help you to analyze data, plot data. So this is all talking about that. Now you will also be able to understand some basic terminology related to probability and define probability in a given scenario or situation after the completion of this particular course. Coming to the plan for covering this syllabus, as you can see, there are 4 units altogether in this particular course, each of 10 hours duration. So we'll be targeting that by the midterm you have completed at least first 2 units. So that forms the syllabus for your midterm examinations, and the end term examinations covers the entire syllabus, that is all 4 units. So altogether 40 hours to cover all 4 units. Now coming to the first unit, the first unit will basically deal with the introduction concept to statistics, how your data is collected, then represented in a graphical or a diagrammatic form. So there are various bar charts, you must have already learned, studied in some of your earlier courses. So basically this representation of data in these forms, the OGFs, curves, the cumulative frequency diagram, the polygon. So there are many ways of representing data in graphical and diagrammatic form. So we'll be talking about that in this particular unit. We'll also study that how do we classify and tabulate data in the form of maybe tables, arrays, and other ways. The frequency distribution, frequency polygon, that already I talked about. So in, say for example, in a class, how many students are scoring marks between 40 to 50, say if the total maximum marks are 100, then out of 100 marks, how many are students are scoring between 40 to 50, how many are scoring between 50 to 60, how many are scoring between 60 to 70. So if we plot this distribution of marks with respect to how many students, that is the number, the frequency, so we get what is known as the frequency distribution. Then there are some measures of central tendency, or the averages as we call them. So it is generally, we understand the mathematical average, that average percentage marks or average speed in a journey, or average number of average pay in an organization, when we take the simple arithmetic mean of the different employees pays. So but apart from this simple mathematical arithmetic average, which is called also known as the mean, there are other kinds of measures of central tendency or averages, which are mean, median mode, and harmonic mean, geometric mean. So we are going to study all about all these in this first unit. Then we are also going to study the relation between different time averages, like how the mean, median, mode are related. Then we'll talk about how much, if the data, if we see, then it has variations and it is distributed, as I talked about in a recent example. Like if we talk about plot your percentage of marks with respect to number of people, then you get a plot of different marks, and then how many students scored those marks, like between 40 and 50, how many were there, and 50 to 60, how many were there, 60 to 70%, how many were there, so on and so forth. So there is a variation, means the marks are distributed across different number of students. So how the distribution is, a distribution of data is, that with a variation in data distribution is, so we generally talk about the concept of dispersion in this context. We'll study all about all these in more details, and that will make the things more clear to you in the corresponding sessions. So then the concept of range, quartile deviation, mean deviation, the coefficient of variations. These are all some measures which are used in statistical analysis. So we will be introducing them also in the first unit. Now coming to the second unit, we'll talk about in detail about the correlation and integration concept, which is an important concept or tool from the perspective of statistical analysis. So what do we mean by correlation analysis, its significance, different types of correlations, then how do we study correlation through different plots or scatter diagrams as we call them, then there are some coefficients which are used to measure correlation, like this Carl Pearson's coefficient of correlation or the Spearman's rank coefficient um, of correlation. Then we talk about the regression analysis, what this means. Then we talk about the cases of particular regression, like the linear regression, where the relationship between two variables is in the form of a line or plotted in the form of a line. So it can be plotted x on y-axis or y on x-axis. So all these things you will see in the corresponding sessions. This is just to introduce you to the syllabus in different terms. In the third unit, which is again of 10 marks, 10 hours to be covered in 10 hours, we'll be analyzing, focusing on the concept of time series and index numbers. Now time series is an important aspect because often we do forecasting, like based on say suppose what has been the movement of stock market over the past decades. So it is a time series, year after year we measure the stock index, and then we try to establish a relation, and then we often try to establish a forecast also for future, how the stock market will behave in the future. See, it can also be in the for forecasting, like the demand for a particular product or service of a business organization. So what has the trend been in the past years, and based on that we set a target for our future or the coming year or the coming years. We do the projections. So all these things are done through forecasting, time series forecasting. So how do we go ahead with that? We'll talk about those concepts over here. Then the fourth unit, which is your last unit, again to be covered in 10 hours, we'll talk about probability and probability distributions. Now probability is an important concept which finds utilization or mention in various statistical analysis tools or techniques, and is important for any business organization. Hence, so we'll try to understand what is the meaning of probability and why it is needed. Then we'll talk about some of the theorems which pertain to the probability, addition of probabilities and condition multiplication of probabilities. Then in subject to a particular condition, how the probability can be calculated. There is an important concept called Bayes theorem or theorem, which is very important when we try to estimate a collective probability based on different individual probabilities. So there we use this particular theorem. So we'll see about all these in detail in the corresponding sessions. So just to have a brief introductory idea, you should be aware that yes, probability we are going to cover, and probability is an important concept. Now these are the three prescribed learning resources. The first one being a book called Statistics for Management, 6th edition by Pearson Education. It is authored by Levin Richard and Ruben David. This is the first and the best, probably pretty comprehensive, very good language. So this will be the major learning resource which will follow. Then apart from that, the other prescribed books are the Statistical Methods by S.P. Gupta from Sultan Chand and Publication, and then there is another book called Statistics for Business and Economics by Anderson, Sweeney and Williams, which comes from Southwestern Publication. So these are the prescribed books, and the first one is the major one, which is going to be referred and covers your syllabus comprehensively. Now after talking about the syllabus, just let us try to, in brief, understand what is statistics. So, statistics, if you talk about a generic definition in dictionary, so it is defined as a branch of mathematics dealing with the collection, analysis, interpretation, and presentation of masses of numerical data. So basically, it is talking about numbers, and how do we collect them, how do we analyze them, how do we interpret them, how do we present them, so that it can be useful for taking a decision in the context of business organization, a business decision. So it is basically a collection of quantitative data, and statistics is also the practice or science of collecting and analyzing numerical data in large quantities. So here we are talking about large numbers, large quantities of data. So when there is a large quantity of data, so it cannot be easily comprehended and analyzed. So for that we need some organized way of understanding that what the data means, or what are data, from the data what conclusions or interpretations we can derive. So for that we use some statistical or mathematical tools and techniques. So all that comprises your statistics. So again, there are various ways in which statistics has been defined by different organizations, institutions, books. So statistics studies methodologies to gather, review, analyze, and draw conclusions from data. Again, it is saying the same thing which has been already talked about, but just with a different flavor. So there are different types of, or many different types of statistics, means numbers, analysis tools, techniques which are relevant to a particular situation or scenario which you are analyzing. So it is not just one tool technique, but it is a collection or there are different types of statistics which are used. Then statistics is also defined as a form of mathematical analysis that uses quantified models, representations, and synopsis for a given set of experimental data or real life studies. So basically it is again talking about the same thing, that it deals with collection of data using quantified models and representing it, and then summarizing what the data says, or from what insights can be derived from the collected data. So the data can be from experiments, wherein it is called as experimental data, or it can be from different studies. So often you see that data is collected on just before the electoral polls. So there is a concept of collecting data from a sample of people in various cities, and based on that we try to arrive at how many seats in an election a particular party is going to win, or is estimated to win. So then again, just after the polls, when the votes have been casted, there is an exit poll concept. Again, data collection exercise from a sample, and then generalizing that based on that how many seats will be won by different parties. So it is again a type of data analysis which is happening, and that's what statistics is about. Now what or why we need to study. So basically statistics is used to make better informed business decisions. So if you know that what are the preferences, choice of customers, if you carry just before the launch of a new product and or service in the market, you might want to conduct a survey of the market. So collecting data responses, how the people feel about a particular kind of product or service, will they be buying it or not. So based on that you make some analysis that how ready the market is to accept your products and services, or how much sales can you derive. So over the years you do this exercise of collecting some numbers, data, and then based on the past trends, forecasting into the future that how much sales can be expected. All these things are possible with the use of statistics. So it gives you a very uh, very well organized input to take better informed business decisions. So we'll try to understand more in detail about the contents of the first unit in subsequent sessions. For today, we rest here, and thank you for being a patient listener. If you have any comments, queries, you are welcome to post, ask, and today we stop over here. Thank you again.